Welcome to Tammy's Soul Speak, featuring animal intuitive and medium Tammy Hendricks, offering insight, spirituality, transformation, and clarity to every soul. Now, here's Tammy.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I'm so glad to be back. I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you. Looking so forward to connecting today. It's wow. It was a ride to the end of the year. I don't know about you, but a lot of happenings in December. The last 2 weeks were busy on so many levels. Like the whole animal network was super busy. And, you know, today I thought I would do something a little different. And I've had 2 little pups wanting to come in while we do the show. So this will literally be Soul Speak Live as you get to meet these 2 little cherubs, the little sprites. They're very much like fairy energy. It's good to see everybody coming in. And, you know, Boniface Animal Rescue, I appreciate you having seen the interview and feeling drawn. That's how it works for me too. I love it. So yeah, we'll take a look at that as we get through the show and talk about animal voices. It's like perfect timing as always. And hi, Lisa, always good to see you. Happy New Year. And Claire, Happy New Year to you. Oh my goodness. I love seeing all of you come into the room, and Mariel and Tara. Hello, Patty. Good to see you. You know, what a gathering, and so important here toward the beginning of the year, especially. I have 2 wanting to come meet you, so let me hold them up. So let me see. Who's do I got? This is Poppy right here, and this is Paris, and they are sisters, about 8 months old. Like I said, just very fun, cheerful, just pleasant. They're wonderful little sprites. Roxy's like, oh, I love them. They're sweet as they can be. So if you see me look down, that's what I'm looking at. They've agreed to come in and help me with the show and help us. So yeah, they melt my heart too. I've decided that if somebody sees them and their hearts don't melt, we got a problem. And I'll share with you all on my Facebook page. I took a sweet little video. I carry them out in a basket, and they've taught themselves to jump into the basket. So it's super cute that when we leave and I'm like, all right, you want to go, girls? And they run and they jump into the basket and then they hang out. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun. All right, I'm going to put them down for a moment. I'm sure they'll be back up. They've got like little things to do. So Animal Voices is Soul Speak Live, speak behind the scenes. So you get to see interaction, very live interaction, unscripted interaction. That's what I like about life, is so unscripted. And I like these shows because while I will have ideas of what we talk about, it always ends up expanding into something wonderful. Yeah, and Tara, I lost my long-haired Chihuahua last year. It's a rough time toward the end of the year when we're going through these experiences, and there's all these holidays and there's all this expectation. And I don't know about you, but in January, you can almost, like January 1st, I could feel the calm, feel the almost like when it snows and it's super quiet. So nice to feel that, because everybody's finally gotten through this piece of rushing, and there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of angst, you know, a lot of happiness, a lot of joy. So it's a big, big mix. So, you know, as long as I can remember, I've been talking with animals. I realized, I didn't know I was doing that then. I realized, you know, I was conversing with all of life, not just the animals, and that everything's connected. Nothing is separate. It only seems that way to our minds that tend to categorize and put things in, you know, separate labels and separate drawers. And Renee, if you would put up the graphic that I shared, I thought this could give an indication of me. So yeah, you see, all the animals are wanting to talk. And if you'll look, you're not seeing any words. And just from looking at the graphic, any pickup on the energy or maybe the things they might be sharing? I mean, if you look at all the little cat, and there's even a little Pomeranian in there. And of course I don't know if anybody recognizes Cynthia the squirrel, but Cynthia the squirrel is quite the character for Janet. Betty says, smiles. Yes, agreed. They're all intent on looking, and our animals, just like children, are always watching us, always. So just remember that. They're having their experience of you while you're having your experience of them. Super, super important to always remember that and be relational. Roxy says, joy, excitement, and curiosity. Agreed. Lisa, attentive. Yes, very attentive. And happy. Yeah, it's a good feeling when you look at this graphic, and I think we all need to have these little tools in our pockets to pick up during the day when we start getting a little stressed or too busy that we can't feel our hearts, whatever it is. Tara says, love the color blues, indicates communication to me. Yeah, I love blue too. It's one of my favorites. Heather says, I had a great talk this morning with a brilliant red cardinal. I love that. It's everywhere. And Patty says, connection. Yeah. I'm wondering, and I will always ask this of you. You're so articulate, and you have such good reading abilities. I know you're reading energy, but what is it that's translating for you? How are you reading this photo and getting that information? Because even in a graphics speak words. It's almost inaudible words, but you know what I mean. And Deanna says they have info to pass on to us. Yes. Oh, isn't that the truth all the time? So now more than ever, and it's why we're doing this show today, first of the year, first show of the year. The animals are urging us to listen from our hearts, to hear their voices. And, I know that can sound like a concept, but it's your given right to be able to do that. And it's the one piece that I think people struggle with the most, especially when we're in our busy days. We think we have to sit down to hear our hearts, and that's just not the case. Claire says, heart and soul communication. Yeah, no, it's so important now. I mean, look at the world. Our hearts, the animals' hearts, are needed more than ever. And what we broadcast, what our heart, which is a broadcasting, it has a broadcasting ability, is doing. We're broadcasting something all the time. Think about that. What are you broadcasting? So everything has a voice, a tone, a vibration that translates energy into a form we can hear and understand, which you just did in this graphic. Tara says, love the heart on the side of the desk. That was a good catch. That was just like stuck there. It's like hit what do you find in this photo kind of thing. I'm always going to put those up just to see what you pick up. Hi, Karen. Glad you're here. So, some of you, it's very early morning. Some of you, it's later in the day. Some of you, it's midday like it is on the East Coast. What voices have you noticed in your world yesterday or today? And the reason I ask that is when I used to be in furniture, sometimes, I was probably the most unusual furniture business owner you could ever imagine. So, one day I go out on the floor and the salespeople, I'm like, all right, let's go outside. And they're like, what? So they all follow me outside, and I'm like, look up. They're like, okay, now we're pretty sure we're in the presence of somebody who's not right. I was like, look up. What do you see? What do you see? What do you feel? And so what we ended up talking about was tuning in to the very moment and catching what's happening all around us. And so when we went back in, their hearts were engaged. And I don't know what struck me except an intuitive hit. And I'm always I always pay attention to that, to do that. It's like being yourself and sharing your heart no matter where you are. So what have you noticed in your world today, even? You know, we often go through not noticing anything, or what we notice, it's whatever the loudest voice is. And intuition is, it's super clear, and it can be super fast, super clear, but yet it can be the one thing that's ignored the most. I've done it too. So, you can tune into like the news media and the social media and get bombarded with noises. And if you tuned into the end of the year celebrations, wow, was that loud? But I am talking about the more subtle, the hum from a tree, the purr from a cat, the snore from a dog sleeping, the whistle of kettle boiling. Does anybody use these anymore? Or what about a child's laughter? What have you noticed that caused your energy to shift? Karen says, my cats especially. Miss E has been very nervous because there's a mountain lion roaming our neighborhood. Oh my goodness. Have you seen it? They picked that up though. Wow. Patty says, rainbows, too brilliant and fully formed. Beautiful. Susie said, my cat's purring last night. Hang on, I'll go back to you. See, the eagles were especially talkative this AM. Deanna says, maybe waiting for the show. Yes. I actually saw an eagle here in Asheville. I was driving and it flew over the car, and it's like, oh, did I just see an eagle? Pretty special. And Susie said, my cat's purring last night made me feel safe when I was sleeping. Oh gosh, I love that. They're always giving like that. Are we noticing, right? Charmaine says, yesterday I woke up with tears, was so emotional, but felt blue with me so much. First time since he passed. Oh, I love that, Charmaine. The portals are opening. And of course, on this show, we open some portals. We open some doors. We move some energy. We get under the rocks. We do a lot that continues on. It's like the time release expansion. Jennifer says, rain hitting my tin patio cover while birds play in the bird bath. Oh gosh, that's gorgeous. And Claire says, today I made a note to actually feel and hear the rain, which has been with us for days. It always goes unnoticed. It's almost like I would ask, what are you noticing? But then it is, what are you not noticing? And that points to the things that we just brush right past. And Stephen said, my other dog, RD, had Coda's pick on the couch with him a few days ago. Coda crossed last August. That's so beautiful. When you notice that, and you notice the presence of Coda, who is still very much with you. Patty said, yesterday, a huge hawk flew right alongside my car. Don't you love when that happens? They do that sometimes when I'm biking, and I'm like, whoa. It's just amazing. And Roxy says, some crows were in the front yard on New Year's Day, which is not normal. I've never seen them. They were extremely talkative. I had my window open, so I heard them, which is what made me look. It was a feeling of welcoming and peace, and a reminder for me to stay present. And just you describing that, I don't know about you all, I can feel the presence. Like I drop straight into my body. I'm right in the room with you. So thank you for that. That's what they do for us. And then when we can articulate to another, we're sharing that gift. Karen says, so very thankful to have found you. Lost two of my beloved dogs 2 weeks apart last month. Oh gosh, that's so hard. Has been unbearable, but comfort has been found here. I'm so glad you were drawn here and that your dogs, totally guided you. And when we have them pass so close together, it just takes your breath away, and you wonder, you almost don't have time to process one before the next one pass. So we are holding your hand through this. Diane says, all the birds eating at the feeders while I was eating lunch. Beautiful. You know what? Challenge. I'd love to see some of these pictures that you're sharing. If you post them on the group, the Soul Speak for Animals group, which is a wonderful group, by the way, we're growing, and I've got some the things I'm going to be introducing to the group, especially this year. Very, very special community. So if you haven't joined, please join. I'd love to have you here, but I'd love to see your pics of these things. Like, we all need that. And when you share that, the love continues on. Susie said, my neighbor has a new dog, was skittish one day, and yesterday he felt safe to let me pet her. Oh, love that. Gosh, I love when openings occur. Stephen says, sometimes I will get emotional for no reason. And Coda, first thing in my mind, my other dogs seem to gather around me. No, that's the truth. I'm glad you noticed that. They're instant tuning forks with us. And, I know I've needed it. And I know a lot of times just holding their, hugging their neck, especially if they have a sturdy neck, holding their neck is just soothes my heart tremendously, allows me to take a breath. Janet says there is stillness in the air. The animals are taking cover until the rain passes. They're just gathering to come back and see you. But yeah, they'll definitely, they know what to do. And, a little later, I'm going to talk about how animals do take cover, how they know what to do, no better than we do a lot of the times. I saw the sweetest video right before Christmas of an uncle and a niece playing together, and they were laughing uncontrollably. And I kept looking at that because the uncle and she were at this table and they had little dolls, and they were, talking to the dolls and putting the dolls together. And I watched it over and over because it was so organic, that organic laughter, the organic smile, the smile that makes you smile, the laughter that makes you laugh. What a boost that was. And it was unexpected. It was an unexpected thing to stumble onto. So every voice carries a vibration and carries a message. That's why I think about it. That's why you'll have radio voices or TV voices, and you just get really drawn to the voices. Voices carry energy. I have a friend whose last name is Songster, and she was a radio personality for many, many, many years. Beautiful voice, carried great, just this incredible energy. And I'm like, have you ever paid attention to your last name? Perhaps there's some meaning there. Funniest thing ever, but truly your voice carries an energy and a vibration. It's food for thought. Roxy said, my cat Moon Pie has such an amazing energy. Every time I pick him up, it almost feels like I can go into a nap instantly. It's quite strange just how calming it is. Wow. He's like a little energy vibrator, just kind of keeping your energy balanced is what it feels like. So Renee, if you would put up the next slide about communication, I thought we'd just do a little background with communication. So communication is a foundation for all relationships. It's where we intersect with one another. It's also the area we struggle the most with. I don't know about you, but I have experienced that. Conversation can bridge gaps or create chasms. And Renee, if you would put up the next one, I'm going to put something else to you. I have this theory. It's what I've always felt. All problems in relationships are communication issues. Always. Underneath every problem, think about the world for a minute. Something's not being understood or heard. And don't you long to be understood and heard? It's the same thing with the animals. I had a client I had a session with before Christmas, and she wrote me just a day or two ago. And in the thing she wrote, she said, "Thank you so much. I finally feel seen and heard." What a gift we can give anybody, just like I see you and you see me. It'll carry, if we're seen by one being, it'll carry us the rest through our lives. So, most of us weren't given a set of instructions, though, about how to communicate. Our instructions came in the form of life experiences with our birth families and others. As children, we watched how others communicated, and for me, it was a myriad of different energies lots of uncontrolled emotions from the adults, lots of violence, lots of different things that I got early training on. In the meantime, my little eyes were like wide, watching it all and learning how to read underneath that. But for me, it was the animals who were the clearest communicators. So I had a contrast to what I was observing with my birth family. So I'm grateful I had that training as well. Very important. I wouldn't trade a minute of whatever I've experienced in life. It's all important. But the animals didn't cloak their feelings like the adults did, or their thoughts or their movements. They stayed completely authentic. So I was able to see the authenticity, and then I was able to be like, what in the world is up with you all? And I can remember at 4 going, you've got to be kidding me. I'm the adult in the room. So I know some of you might resonate with that, and being the observer in your family. It was early training, just like I would go outside and the animals would, I was conversing and didn't realize that's what I was doing because I was so close to nature, and I found freedom and peace outside. So I had quite a connection with the birds, the trees, all the flowers, all the animals, and that to me felt so safe. But if the animals were sad, they were sad. They're happy, they didn't tell themselves too much joy. If they were afraid, they took care of themselves and they removed themselves from the circumstances. And that's what I think a lot of us, when we're swimming in things that are unpleasant or afraid, we just stand there. We don't know we can remove ourselves or how to remove ourselves. So Renee, if you put that up, the way the animals communicate is lightning fast. Wordless communication that is so much faster than how humans communicate. So much faster. When I have been taking dogs out, for instance, on leashes, my dogs would line up in a group, and I wouldn't have to count. I wouldn't have to like, is so-and-so here? Ernie, Beezy is like Pippi here. Like I could feel their energy individually and at the same time, if that makes any sense. It's a lot faster where, if a member of my family were doing it, they'd be like, okay, I got 1, 2, 3, I got 5, and it's this and this and this. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I just noticed how I interfaced a little differently. Oh dear, Karen says, yep, some people in my life communicated with their fists and the animals comforted me. Here, me too. Me too. Pretty frightening when you're younger, because you know that they don't have control of themselves. And you're like, great, where did I sign up for this? So to be a good communicator, and Renee, if you put that slide up, it's always worth looking at. To be a good communicator, you have to be a good listener. And Renee, the next one, intuitive listening is a whole body experience that originates in the heart. Now, I want you to think about that a minute. We go out in the world, we get, in our cars, we go to the grocery store, we go run errands, we go to work. You can understand how a lot of people just live from, the neck up, and they're totally in their minds for the day. And then it's like they clock out when they leave and they get back, and then they have to reacquaint themselves with their body. It's like we don't bring our bodies along with us. And I think that was the gift of my childhood, is I was all body outside and I was with nature. And, I didn't have verbal language. The animals in the nature was very different. So I literally was taught. How many of you consider yourself good listeners? I'm totally curious about this. Seriously, how many of you do consider yourself good listeners? And, what do you think that necessarily means? Good listening. What does good listening look like? Heather says, you have to be a great listener. I've learned that through you, Tammy. And you have to believe. That believing is actually a knowing that's within. The belief, it's almost implies you need proof. You don't need any proof because you have that clarity in your heart, and it's just a knowing with the animals, isn't it? Roxy says, I know I am. Yes. Karen says, me. Susie said, I'm a good listener, very intuitive. Yes, you are. And Diane says, oh, absolutely. Always get what is around me. Animals help me feel connected. Great listener, even when no words are spoken. I love that. I see all of you all are, which would draw you to a show like this because you're actually intuiting things as we go through the show, as energy is dropping in for you. Boniface Animal Rescue says, I'm a better listener than communicator. That's something to think about. The listening piece actually allows you probably to be a good communicator, I would think, with animals and with people. We always got to throw the people in because it's never just about the animals, just saying. Mary says, I can be a good listener. People tend to talk to me about everything. Any of you notice that? I have the same thing happen where you know what it is, where people are talking and they want to share is because they feel a heart that can listen. That's exactly why. Over Christmas, I went to talk to, long story, but there's a place that gets super busy here. And so they post off-duty cops. And so one day I decided to go talk to him, and I had a loaf of bread with me. So I had a sourdough starter, and it's like swaddling a baby and nurturing a baby, have to do the loaves all the time. So I had this loaf. So I go up there and I talk to him, and he starts telling me everything that he's been experiencing. And I just wanted to kind of check with him and touch base, but I ended up having this wonderful conversation. The loaf was destined to another place. At the end of it, I was like, here, you want the loaf? Like, I just gave him the loaf, and then I went to the house and got the other loaf. So it's interesting when your intuition guides you. It's just like, just go wherever you're guided. It's always going to be the right place. And that's a piece of listening, the listening to your intuition. Claire says, listening with eyes and body language is a big one for me. Yes. Always listen with my heart. Patty says, as you go through the show and as we share other time together, always start noticing, what is my method? What is my way I get information? Because anytime we teach or try to learn animal communication or people communication for that reason, we all have different ways we interface with the world. And so the way you maybe learned and communicated as a child may be one of your strong suits with the animals. So good to know whether you're a visual learner, an auditory learner, you're kinesthetic, you get strong feelings, so you learn through that. The listening piece, and we may take this even further into other shows. It's like the number one piece. So the animals taught me a wonderful technique that, they, for me, dropped this in called heart telepathy. So I love the two words paired together, for they pose a contrast. They get our attention. So if you think about the heart, we think that's probably more of a right brain function, right? If we want to say that. And then the telepathy, what do you think of when you think telepathy? Heart telepathy is more about emotional, intuitive understanding than verbal communication. So telepathy, it's probably a word we've all heard, right? Maybe it's a skill you think you don't have. Maybe it's a gift you think you don't have. Maybe it's something you think psychics and mediums and other people have. Well, I'm here to tell you, you have it, your animal has it, we all have it. So the heart, there's this heart-based emotional connection. Renee, if you put up that next slide, and telepathy. Again, just throwing out some general things to start with: mind reading, psychic ability, ESP, communication through thoughts or ideas by means other than the known senses. And then, Renee, the next one, heart telepathy is a life skill, though, and a lifesaver in communication with others. The heart is a perceptual center, capable of understanding all parts simultaneously. Martine says, love telepathy with my pets and befriended beautiful animals, local horses, birds. The animals are all about heart telepathy. Diane says, with your help, so connected with my dog Riley now. It's so wonderful. We are both happier. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. Thank you. Diane says, why can't I hear my own pets? Oh, what an interesting question. So glad you asked. How are you wanting to hear them exactly? Because when if I look back to my childhood, I wasn't trying to hear, I was naturally hearing. And what I mean by that is, are you trying to hear words? I think a lot of times, and I know in the past when I've taken any animal communication classes it was more or less just to figure out my own self and however I interfaced with things. I think a lot of times we strain for words. And we think if we don't get words coming in, that it's not communication. Not so. Not so. There's all types of communication, which is why we're here today talking about what we're talking about. Diane says, I usually hear voices. That's so cool, Diane. Well, what do you mean then by I don't hear my own pets? I usually hear voices. So you'll have to help clue me in. Marge said, I don't hear, I feel it. So yeah, I totally agree. There's all these different ways. Sometimes I've literally heard voices. I've literally seen animals. I've had information drop in that was not mine, that had no way other than it was just given to me. But a lot of it is just the feeling, intuitive communication, like Susie says. And Laurie says, I had a hummingbird get stuck on my enclosed patio. I used this to help it. I had it land on my hand and took it out on the patio. So cool. Isn't that, gosh, that's so cool, because how rare is that, that they will allow that touch. And so I have another little coined something to share with you. What about telepathic empaths? They can intuitively read what's happening to others in present time, even if a person's thoughts and feelings are unexpressed. They receive images, impressions, flashes, and knowings about loved ones, co-workers, and even strangers. They read underneath and behind what is present. It's what I talk about in the field. Diane says, I've heard voices from my previous pets. They have told me things but my current pets have not spoken to me. I would open maybe your mind to consider other ways they might be speaking to you. I guarantee you they're speaking to you. And I had somebody post something on a post the other day. I said, yes, but are you listening? So listen, try to open up to say, I wonder if there's another way I can listen. The more open you are, the more you are like, oh, wow, that's how I get information. So you're not trying to see it from how somebody else gets it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of you, if not all of you, are telepathic empaths. And Renee, if you'd put up the next slide, what would be the example of a telepathic empath? Is that when you simultaneously get a feeling with them, and you're picking up something and they're picking up something, you're sharing some info? I remember being at the computer years ago, and Rosie came up to me, and I petted her and went back to the computer, and all of a sudden I heard/felt, I want to go out. And I remember it came out of nowhere, and I turned and she was staring at me. So again, telepathic communication. And so you got the heart connection with your animals. Trust me, you've got the telepathic communication as well. The heart telepathy is very, very powerful. Laurie says, when my cat Izzy passed in July, when I'm meditating, I've heard her voice. Very interesting. I love that. You might want to keep a journal of that just to track what your strengths are, what you're picking up. I would actually advise all of you to do that. Let's all do that. That way we can share what we're learning together. Have you ever known somebody's going to call before they do? You reach out to someone just as they are about to share. Sometimes your animals show up before, well, a lot of times they do. All the time they do. If I'm and sometimes they'll tell me their names or who's coming to the show. It's really cool. You bump into somebody after you've thought of them. All of us have done that, right? Claire said, I had a recent communication. My cat sat in front of me and physically told me what he needed, and verbally, so loud and clear. Such a rich experience. And so I think the catch we have to watch is we think if we don't get that kind of communication all the time that, well, we just don't have it. We're not communicating. Not so. It comes when it comes in different ways, and just be open to being surprised in any way. I love that you shared that, Claire. So they, and I think the animals make it easy for us to practice heart telepathy, where we naturally drop our defenses, that we walk around all day super tight and like, I can't show you who I am. And, it's just like being guided to talk to the police guy and having such a delightful conversation, and then having the idea to give him the bread. It was so funny. That's so me, where it's just random. Gladys says, and it's nice to see you here. I have a reactive foster pup sitting on my lap. I speak to him, but I also try to communicate without words. I'm afraid if he doesn't get his reactivity under control, I won't be able to find him a good home. I love him. At home, he's the cuddliest little guy. How can I help him? I like what you're doing with him, Gladys. Flower essences may actually help your pup. And I have a wonderful company I work with and can also help you with called Green Hope Farm Essences. And I've used essences for years. That's one thing. Just being with him, I'm seeing you sitting with him and putting your hand on his heart space and then just breathing with him, because it feels like his little nervous system gets ramped up too fast, too soon. And that's that reactivity. But I also want to point out, I also think he's mirroring the collective in the world. I want you to think about that a minute. Would you agree there's a ton of reactivity going on? A lot of animals are they're like sponges. It runs through them really quickly, and they're picking up on lots of things that aren't even theirs, So thank you for sharing that. I think doing those things would probably help. So here's some heart telepathy ingredients that I wanted to share with you. So number one, emotional empathy, the ability to feel and understand the emotions of others, often on a very deep level, as if you're experiencing those yourself. And check these off if you resonate. Intuitive communication, the communication going beyond words or physical gestures, where understanding or messages are perceived directly, heart-to-heart communication. This is that heart telepathy piece. And Roxy says, what's the name again? It's Green Hope Farm Essences. And Renee, I don't know if you can put the link up. They're certainly a wonderful, wonderful company. And spiritual connection, a spiritual or energetic bond between beings, where thoughts and feelings can be transmitted through the energy of the heart. Nonverbal understanding, profound understanding and communication that can occur without the need for language or physical interaction. Isn't that the best? Just being able to communicate without words, where you just don't need words. And then the next one is the compassion and unconditional love. That needs more growing in our world, and it starts with us. Connection and understanding stem from the core of the heart space, a place of deep care and concern for the well-being of another. That's something we all can practice every moment of our lives. And in summary, heart telepathy embodies deep empathetic and intuitive connections between beings. And would you agree, that's what we all have? And it's that simple with animal voices. It's that simple. And it's sometimes the most difficult to practice. So what are some heart telepathy experiences? If you would, sensing emotional states. How many of you can do that? Or have noticed a person feeling suddenly anxious or sad, and then noticing their pet coming over to comfort them, sensing their emotional state? Have you ever had that happen? Boy, I have. And the pet becomes unusually calm or supportive during difficult times, like sitting close during illness or grief. I know Gunnar with Jolene has done that many, many times. Oh, Diane says, I'm a caregiver and use all the above skills. Venus says, yes, all the time. Lisa says, yes. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Another experience are the nonverbal requests and responses. just like I told you about Rosie, kind of a pet looking at its leash and the owner sensing the pet wants to go for a walk, even without any physical cues. Person thinking about feeding their pet, and the pet suddenly shows up at the feeding area. Anybody have that happen? Although it's not their usual feeding time. They have an uncanny sense of letting us know when it is time for us to be feeding them on their schedule. Betty says, my daughter's Mal does this. And Susie said, Marshmallow does that with me when illness and when I'm with my illness and when I'm upset on the phone. They're such little intuitive sensing apparati, you know, they just have this wonderful tuning in space for us, sharing comfort and healing. Renee, if you put up the next slide, an individual feeling unwell and their pet refusing to leave their side, providing comfort through their presence. I've known so many animals that do that. Person meditating or practicing relaxation techniques and their pet joining in or lying peacefully beside them. Roxy says, if I'm sad or crying, only one of my 8 will come quickly to comfort me and lick my tears. You know, that's the designated one. They have an agreement that this is what you do, this is what I do. Definitely. It's like we've got roles to play, and that's your role. Charmaine says, definitely Blue did that. Lori says, our doxies do that all the time. Marge says, Fergie has this amazing habit of coming to the front door when my sister is due to come home. Oh, I love that. What a great connection. It's got to make your sister feel good as well. The next one would be, what about premonition of needs or dangers? A pet behaving unusually restless or agitated, leading the owner to check and discover something amiss in the house, like a gas leak or an open door. You know, Molly, my lab, she was totally like, she was so tattletale on the boys, but I was so grateful because she would constantly show me things they had gotten into. Or one time, Tommy, I don't know how he did this. He was golden retriever, got his collar caught on the indoor, it's like an indoor faucet type thing. And her barking was just like, are you coming down here? So I get down there and she's like, well, it's about time you got here. And so she turns around and leads me straight to where he's stuck. He's like, oh my gosh, what's happened? So I undo him, and I turn around to thank her, but she's like dismissed me at that point and she's gone to go drink water as if it's exhausting trying to get your attention. So they're wonderful about that. And boy, I was appreciative of all her heads up. Have any of you ever felt like a strong urge to check on your pet and found out they needed something, or return home unexpectedly only to find your pet in the need of immediate care? These are all those intuitive, things that waft in that if we aren't paying attention, we miss. And then we're like beating ourselves up for missing them. Marge said, Fergie actually just came to the room and is listening to you. That's so cute. I have a lot of animals when I'm doing sessions. They'll come and, they'll drop their person off and say to me telepathically, like, here she is, here he is, you go, you've got this. And then they'll show back up at a certain point, whatever we're talking about. It's the cutest thing. Claire says, recently, whilst my dog was, I was dog sitting, after coming in from the garden, Jeff, our collie, wouldn't let her sit down and kept going to the front door. He was telling her she hadn't to shut the door properly. Go, Jeff. I love that. Karen says, my most loving memory of my big dog, Gandalf, was him comforting me with his big old head in my lap. Oh, I can feel that. I feel that. Deborah Lynn says, my dog Piper sometimes gets up at night, stands on my chest, paws my face, and I think it's always bad dreams because of my PTSD and breathing bad. I can also feel those feelings my animals need. Total, in a sense, highly sensitive being you are, and any animals in your life as well. Tuning forks much for you. That's really a lovely connection and a lovely, like a soul promise to each other, where you're looking out after each other. Susie said, yes, my Wasabi urgent need to get home because of his illness. When I was in the hospital a long time ago, such communication is going on in daily life. And the next one I would say, what about recognizing the synchronized moods and behaviors? A person and their pet often mirroring each other an energy level without any apparent reason. Pet initiating play or relaxation at a time when we're just a little stiff. We got a little tightness going on and we need to shift our energy. Cats are experts at this, at disrupting our patterns at work or overwork. They'll walk across keyboards, bat papers off, in an attempt to bring us back to the present moment. Or if you had a Christmas tree, any of the cats climbing up in the Christmas tree and batting those ornaments. I know, Renee, you know what I'm talking about. Renee has a very active cat and always keeping things on everybody on their toes, dogs and people alike. Renee's cat is. What about understanding without training? Pet understanding and responding to complex requests they were never trained for, simply through intuitive connection with their owner. An owner intuitively knowing how to solve a behavioral issue with their pet without external advice, understanding the root cause internally. That's such a big one because a lot of times we train the behavior. It's not actually what's underneath the behavior that's actually driving the behavior. So I want to share something fun with you. I thought this would be fun for the first of the year, a little kind of game. And I call it a heart telepathy wheel. So Renee, if you'd share while I read. So behind every number, there's a question. You're going to see something in a minute. To appease your logical brain, we're showing it a visual. So you can tell your brain to calm down right now. But when I ask you to pick a number, your brain won't know which one. It's because there's too many choices to be the right one. So this is not a test. I remember having stuff like this in workshops, and until I got more comfortable with who I was, I would go straight to my head and like, oh my gosh, what if I'm not getting the right answer? Okay, so none of that. Be willing to be what you would consider wrong, but you can't go wrong here. So I want you to pick the first one you feel drawn to, 1 through 5. And just know heart telepathy is at work, guiding you to the question that's just right for you. And then the next slide, Renee, is if I can get it to. So when asking the following questions, it is essential to approach the conversation with an open heart and mind. Pretty sure your hearts are open. Wait till I put the wheel up. I'm pretty sure your hearts are open and being receptive to any intuitive impressions, emotions, or physical sensations that arise. You all are so funny. Communication comes in many more forms than we realize. So again, as I go through and we share ways to communicate and how you share, we're all going to learn that there's no one right way to communicate or hear the animal voices. They're telling us in so many ways. All forms count. These questions tap into the deeper spiritual connection. So you ready? All right, now we've got the slide. So take a look at this. This is I call heart telepathy wheel. So what are you drawn to? And I didn't confuse it, but I added some little spice by a little color and numbers. And if you'll put up what you feel drawn to. Giving you just a minute. Is it 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 on the wheel? And it was just quick. Don't pause. Sonia Choquette would say, if you're pausing, you're in your head. It's that fast. No pressure though. No worries. So as you have shared what you're getting, and if you're ready, Renee, if you'll put up the next slide, that correspond to what you picked. So once you write these down, if you didn't bring your little Soul Speak notebook and pen, we need to do that. What can I do? Number 1, what can I do to strengthen our connection? So that's something I'm going to want you to meditate on and take in with your animal. Number 2, are there specific moments that bring you joy? Number 3, how do you see your role in my life and our family? These are questions you're going to communicate with your pet. 4, what are your favorite memories with us or me? And you can do this present time. It doesn't have to be that the animal has passed. So this is a toggle back and forth kind of situation. And 5 would be, is there a particular feeling you can share? And Renee, hold that slide up a minute. So this works with people too, by the way. You can ask on a soul level, people that are in your life and the animals, and let whatever answers come to you. Don't expect them to come right this second, because I'm still talking and you're listening and you may or may not get some things. Don't worry. But really take it in and then wait for the answers to come. It'll come, I promise, because we're actually opening our hearts and asking from that space. And your brain didn't get in the way of, or your mind didn't get in the way of arguing what was the right one. You'll get answers. What is your role? Favorite memory? Ask to be shown. Visual, a feeling, anything. Specific moments. Wait till one drops in. What can I do to strengthen our connection? Some of your questions that I got in were, do they like the cat tree where they are? This is perfect. Any of your questions you ask me, do it through this space of open communication. So I'm gonna let it roll one more time and give you another question to ponder in your life. So Renee, if you put the wheel up again. All right. Got a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, and a 10. Go. Which one you drawn to? Fast. Don't think about it. Anyone's right. All of them are right. The area that you pick it from might be different. You will feel it. You'll just do it. Whatever it is, it's intuitive to you. It's a personal message to you. It's one I can't give you. I can't pick your number for you. Although I could psychic you and maybe do that. It's like picking the lottery. Yeah, no. Okay. I like it. I'm seeing a lot of, wow, I'm seeing a whole across the board. You all are, yeah. 6 is a big one. I don't even know what 6 is. Shannon says 9, Venus 6, Stephen 8, and Patty's 9, and Mariel's 8, and Betty's 6. Well, let us see what it is, because I'm curious now. So Renee, if you'd put up that next slide. So 6, how can I honor a relationship in our daily life? Wouldn't you like to know? Ooh, Betty says purple. Like it. 7, what guidance or wisdom can you offer me now? Wouldn't you like a little, give me the deets? I'd love to have some guidance, in the moment, a little, guidance on demand kind of thing. 8, how can we continue to support each other? Beautiful. These are deeper questions, if you'll notice. Deeper questions. 9, in what ways can I recognize your presence now? And 10, what has our journey together taught you and me? Again, it doesn't have to be for a pet that's passed or a human. This can be current time, and you can get good information off of this. And these questions actually invite a deeper, more spiritual invitation. You're dropping into like a deep dive into the pool, as opposed to what's surface. Like, what color do you like? Or do you like your bowl? Or this is deep. So don't be afraid to go there. Your hearts are ready for it. What guidance or wisdom can you share? How can we support each other? What ways can I recognize your presence? I'd love that. I'd love to feel you now. What has our journey together taught you and me? And that's an ongoing question. It's lots of different teachings. And how can I honor you in this moment? I'd love, love, love to hear, and especially so that we all can share, that for you to join the private Facebook group and share. Please share what you got from this exercise. Please share what comes to you, because this is the gift in opening up our hearts and opening up our listening to hearing those deeper voices, hearing what's underneath the surface, hearing our animals in a way we've never heard them before. And so I want to see if we can get to a few questions in our time, because I'd like to have you help me. Please help intuitively tune in to these questions that you have shared, your precious babies, with me. So Renee, if you would put the first one up. This is Betty. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Betty. I'm glad you're here. I have two babies, Bailey and Mia. They're both 10ish. Bailey's slightly older. She is one closer to the wall. My question is, why don't they get along? Well, immediately what comes in for me is that they're both of them very opinionated, very strong personalities in their own space. And so I think, and I use the word space because I'm feeling that, how it's like a competitive, no, my idea is right set. When we get with somebody and, we want to be kind of the larger, louder voice, there's that feeling with them. And so I think the key here is, recognizing that they are both extraordinarily individual. And sometimes when we expect people or animals to get along, it's not exactly what their idea is. I've always told mine, as I've had ones come, I don't expect you gravitate toward the friends. I do expect you to be respectful, and this is how it rolls here, but I want you to be individuals. And it may mean that I have to do a little balancing act with them. And I'm sensing that you probably do too. But one of the greatest gifts you can give them, Betty, is to recognize I'm hearing this like loud and clear, their individual traits, their individual gifts, and make sure that each one feels recognized as that individual, because they so want that and expect that. And they're super proud of who they are. So I hope that helps. And then the next one, all of these are so helpful for all of us. And Roxy says, I'd like to ask about Bruiser. He's the latest addition to my pack. He used to belong to my dad, who passed away January of 2023. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And I'm glad he's back with you, though. I actually rescued him as a tiny half-frozen kitten laying on a sidewalk back in 2009 or 2010. Dad foster failed. Is there anything I can do for him to make him more comfortable? Is he okay with where I put his cat tree? And is he feeling okay? I know he is adjusting to everything new. I would totally get you to, the questions we just did. I would pose that to Bruiser about, get a feel. First of all, they love to be included. And I would ask him and get a feel for, do you like the cat tree here? I have a client that I suggested she do that, and she was really surprised that she could get a feeling in a certain room that, no, that's not it. I'd like it to be in this room. I would totally, first of all, do that. And he says he's just a little sensitive. He's just, I'm feeling like, he says he's very different from the others, and that he is actually very comfortable. And so not to worry about him, that he's learning how to kind of, sorry, I get tangled up because it starts moving so fast. That since you're allowing him, and you have the great gift of allowing animals to be who they are, he's feeling more and more comfortable in who he is. So he's telling me he's learning who he is. It's not that he's uncomfortable. He's stretching. He's kind of feeling it out. So anything you do with him, you're going to totally intuit. And don't worry if you think that he's not liking it. You will feel, and he's very grateful, actually, for being heard and seen. What a beautiful energy. And so Renee, I hope that helps, Roxy. And Renee, if you'd put the next one up. And this is Mia. I'd love to hear from Mia. I miss her so much. Mia is a teacher, healer soul who went missing over a year ago, or just about a year ago. Beautiful, beautiful. She's a guide cat. She's a guide soul, she says. And she has continued to guide you, Tammy, with all the animals that come in your path. And there's something about the light in her eyes is the same light that's in your eyes. So she's saying she can She could see things, but so can you. And she continues to walk with you and the other cats, she says, and to please feel her presence. So open to the voice you're hearing from her. And I feel more movement with that in 2024. Lisa says, what a looker. See, it's the eyes, right? You are all like, whoa, the eyes. Thank you so much for coming. We're out of time for this show, but this is a great start to the new year, a great start to all of our conversations going forward. I can't wait to meet with you next on, I believe it's January 17th. And let's keep the conversation going. And please, please keep me posted. I love to hear and see you. And thank you for joining always. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll see you next time.
You've been enjoying Tammy's Soul Speak featuring animal intuitive and medium Tammy Hendricks.